Hello, and welcome to my new YouTube video. Right, so what's this one about? Functioning labels. What are they? And why are they bad? Well, basically, in simple terms, a functioning label is a label applied to someone for medical people to determine how they believe that person will sort of do in society. But why is this bad? Well, for one thing, would you like to be known, labelled as low functioning? Think about that for a minute. So, that would be bad, wouldn't it? I mean, yeah, that would be pretty bad to have to deal with that, have to know. And actually, the problem is, because of the functioning labels, we assume sort of the competence of somebody, of people, when actually we shouldn't really do that, because rather than assuming competence, we should try and find out for ourselves, in the safest way possible, of course, but I do think we should find out for ourselves exactly where someone is, rather than just thinking, like, from a piece of paper about them that you might get if you were an expert or a teacher or something, saying, oh yes, this person's a low functioning, so therefore they can't do this, this and this, they don't understand this. But actually, just because someone doesn't talk or whatever, doesn't necessarily mean that they're not perceptive and not turned on to what's actually going on, what's actually being said about them. And it becomes really difficult when we assume that they're not, because then we have these conversations, even though people tend to generally go into hushed tones anyway. It's people clock what's actually being talked about or what's happening quite often. And also it then leads to, when you're actually talking to someone who is regarded as low functioning, because then these people, even if they're like 30 years old, tend to get talked to and treated like children. Now, when you're 30 and you're getting treated like that, even if you might actually, you know, be treated like a child, but maybe you have a sort of an understanding of Shakespeare, and that if it's done in the right way, or because we all need to have Shakespeare done in the right way to have an understanding of it. That's just a fact for me. I just think that it needs to be done in a passionate and an interesting way. For example, then the understanding actually comes in easier then, doesn't it? Going off track a bit, but that's a good example, I think. And if you talk to someone like a child who actually does have that understanding, but doesn't necessarily appear that way in the traditional sense of what we think of that as society, as people, then that becomes really bad, because that person then gets knocked back and back and back, and even if they might be able to achieve things, although it would be harder for them with their disabilities, it's... try to work out how to phrase this, but it's really bad, because you're assuming what they can and can't do and what they can and can't understand, rather than letting them find out for themselves and finding out when they can ask for help. Now, ask for help, you might sound that's a strange thing if you're talking about someone who's considered as low functioning, maybe because they can't talk or something. But we have communication devices. We have like tablets and things that people can use, or there's these, they get these laminated bits of card, aren't there, where people can spell things out and stuff. But there's also sign language such as BSL and Makaton. And then there's voice machines as well, like Stephen Hawking had. So I think it's very important to remember that actually, even if somebody might not appear, and appear is a very key word here, I think, appear competent in the traditional sense of, talking and, all that sort of thing, actually, quite a lot of cases they know what's going on about them. So let's go to the other end, shall we? When you're called high functioning, why is that bad? Well, that may seem like a compliment, and a lot of people see it as that, but I don't see it that way, you see. I think that actually it's really quite bad, because for instance, if you've subscribed to my channel on YouTube, you probably noticed that there's quite big gaps between when I release videos and when I do videos. And that's to do with I have to be in the right frame of mind. I have to have decided, sometimes a couple of days before, that yes, I'm going to do a video, and then I have to think, how am I going to do this? That sort of thing. And how am I going to speak? What am I going to say? And that takes up quite a lot of my brain space. So, although I might seem high functioning here, there's a lot of things that are difficult for me, like I really struggle with very loud noises. If it's like loud music or lots of large crowds, and flashing lights as well, I just don't like that sort of thing, and I just can't deal with that. And if there's sudden changes as well, I find that quite stressful. And there's the things as well where I do have an issue where I tend to hit myself and bite myself a bit, when I just find it really hard to understand why that's happening or what's caused it even. But the thing is, people don't think that when you're called high functioning autistic. They think, oh, it's someone who can work for Microsoft, or someone who could become a big boss at NASA or something. And that's what's portrayed in the films as well. It's like, when there's a autistic character, they're generally this sort of very intelligent white bloke, and stereotypes is another thing I'm going to do a video about, but they seem to have like not that many struggles in a lot of these films and television shows about autism, these characters, I've noticed, which further perpetuates the problem with the high functioning label, because it makes the high functioning part seem easy, but actually, for the reasons I've explained, and it just completely takes away from the problems that do exist for all autistic people, like it completely depends on the day as to how good a day I'll have. Like today, I'm having quite a good day. Look, I'm doing a YouTube video. I looked for some jobs earlier, but couldn't find any that were suitable. And yeah, that's just the way it is when you're looking for jobs. And actually, that brings me on to another thing. Jobs. So when you're high-functioning autistic, quite a lot tends to be expected, and sometimes it's, you think, oh, I must get this job, I must get these jobs, I must, you end up applying for loads of jobs, and actually it's just, you have to find something that's suitable though, first of all, because you might also have other disabilities. Like I have dyspraxia and epilepsy as well, so if so that means there's jobs I can't apply for. I can't apply for a driving job. You know, I quite like vehicles and things, so actually if I didn't have the epilepsy, I'd certainly put in for a driving test, and probably if I got the driving licence and got a bit of experience under my belt, probably apply for a driving job of some kind. And because of the dyspraxia, I can't really work in a restaurant because carrying plates and posh bottles of wine with the dyspraxia, how long is that going to go on for before that goes badly wrong? Yeah, and I think probably both the autism and the epilepsy, possibly the dyspraxia as well, mean that my ability to do the night shift is compromised as well. Because for the reasons for the epilepsy is that my seizures generally happen at night, so if I was to say I was packing the shelves at a supermarket on one of their stool things that they have, so you can reach up, you know, the ones the ones I've been, and I had a seizure while I was standing on one of those and fell onto the big hard floor that they have on the supermarkets. That's not going to end well, is it? Now, the autism, that probably means nighttime there's probably more people that could take advantage of me, probably. And I don't know, the dyspraxia, I can't decide whether that would be a thing, but of course there'd be less public transport about, so possibly with the dyspraxia I can't drive it also because of the coordination issues, so I'd need a bus. And living in the southwest, in a small village in the southwest in Devon, that's the buses stop at 5:10 here, so yeah, it's not great, is it? So that's a good reasons why the functioning labels don't really work, because they don't take into account all these other problems. Because when someone says high functioning, it's, oh yeah, this it's like assumed or immediately that person's going to achieve quite a lot. And we can do, I think I can do, but I'm just going to have to be careful how I do it and stuff like that. So yeah, and like I said previously when I was talking about the low functioning part of functioning labels, like who on earth would want to be called low functioning? You know, that would really suck, wouldn't it? And I think also the problem with functioning labels as well is people grow, don't they? Like, I'm now 28, but tell you what, I'm a hell of a lot different to what I was when I was 8 years old, and anyone who's 28 and you know, can say that about when they were 8 as well, whether you're autistic or not, whether you're, you know, whether you're got any disability or whether you're able-bodied or neurotypical, can't you? You can say, actually, yes, look, I'm completely different now. Yeah, that's my video. Bye.